Well, first of all, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kearney.
This is going to be a lot of fun. This is our third annual Camp of Instruction. This is 1863. I'd like to start by doing a Pledge of Allegiance to this flag. Anybody know what this flag is? It's an 1863 American flag.
Yeah.
Who knows how many stars is on it?
36.
35. Who said that?
35.
Good. Who was the 35th state?
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Right.
1863.
How about the 34th?
34th was Kansas.
Kansas. These guys are unbelievable. Yeah, that's correct. That was in 61. So we're going to start with that. Now think about this. While we're giving the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to stand up in just a minute. Think about this. 160 years ago, do you think a group of Confederates would be giving a pledge of allegiance to this flag? Of course they would. But look how far we've come. Look at the circle that's happened in the last 160 years. If those guys who fought in the war are looking down on us and seeing what we're doing, I bet you they're very proud of us. Look how far we've come. And I just think it's very cool. So having said that, stand up everybody, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have a very aggressive agenda, and we're going to get through this in 3 hours. It's a lot of stuff to cover. Ron Doika is in Michigan. He was going to do the assembly with the bugle, because I'm getting to love the bugle these days because we're using it a lot. I miss that. We're going to go right into the Chickamauga campaign with Chuck and Alan. We're doing Chickamauga because it's just around the corner. But this was, in fact, 160 years later. Right now, Gettysburg's done. Lee's got his army across the river, and he's looking at Meade's army across the river. They're going to be sitting there for a long time. But while that's going on, you've got Rosecrans just completed the very successful Tullahoma campaign, and he's convinced he wants to take Chattanooga. That's what this whole thing's about. And you guys that are going to go participate in this, you got a great opportunity to be a part of it. So we're going to start with Chuck is going to give his perspective of the federal view, and then Alan's going to talk about the Confederates. Gentlemen, if you come. Thank you.
And this is the gospel. 3 reference points when you're doing your research. When you find 3 independent, separate sources telling you the same thing, then you have a standing chance that that's absolutely true. So, that being said and done, we're rolling into Chickamauga coming up for the 160th in September. What a lot of people don't realize is that this is a soldier's battle. This is not a general's battle. This is the only battlefield in the United States that does not have one monument to a general on it. This was a slugfest by the troops, by their immediate regimental and battalion and divisional commanders. We read where we talk about this division going in and this brigade going in, and we're thinking companies of 100 men, where in reality, when you look at the actual numbers, the numbers were extremely reduced. Regimental-wise, some of these regiments barely had 300 men in them. Right now, as the Tullahoma campaign is winding down on the 12th and the 13th of September, there's already, there's already action going on down in Davis Crossroads and everything, which is probably 25 plus miles south of where the actual battlefield that we have preserved to be. The battle got started early. Rosecrans had a plan. He had an idea of what he wanted to do. He spent several months stockpiling supplies and everything to take with him on this march. We talk about campaigners. Okay, we're going to throw the shit on our backs. We're going to leave the wagons behind. The wagons rolled. The wagons rolled with the men. And as it'll come in point later on, because everybody talks about Battle of Chickamauga, it's Longstreet's breakthrough and it's Snodgrass Hill. Okay? 2 very small portions of what was going on during the battle as far as that goes. Example of wagons and what was going on there wagon-wise. I don't remember off the top of my head which of the Confederates units it was, made Longstreet's breakthrough, charged straight forward, got to a certain point where there was no Union to the left or to the right or to in front of them whatsoever. They were out of ammunition. Okay, what are we going to do? Pull back? That was what they were looking at doing. What did they find? A Union ammunition train. They restocked, resupplied their own men, and then turned around and heard fighting off to their right, further north, I believe about 400 or 500 yards away. Resupplied, 3 times they charged, 3 times they fell back. The battle went from close to noontime till dark 30. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're ordered to charge again. Well, we're going to try it a little bit better this time. Union did the same thing. Okay, yeah, we're going to have more support on both sides of us, and it should go. The guys put their brass ones on and went at it. Action happening all the time over this entire length of the battle. And I do believe now, with the exception of some battles that had taken place, there was a lot of this little bit of give and take. I mean, you look at the command and control issues we have, and imagine Rosecrans or Bragg trying to control 5 miles worth of a battle and have any idea with what's going on. They both peel back. Wilder had the shorter route to go. Minty had the longer route to go and came around. Wilder had set himself up on the vineyard field with a good defensive position. Here comes Minty riding along with his dismounted cab and his mounted cab and the rest of Minty's people. He says to Wilder, "Where do you need me?" Wilder says, "Fill in on my right." Battle of the Vineyard gets started on the 19th and goes at it. But in the meanwhile, while we think about, okay, this is the Battle of the Vineyard, meanwhile, further south down that 5-mile stretch, there's multiple actions all going on at the same time where we are grouped together. We could be the center of the Union line, and from right there, you may have no action going on whatsoever. Several hundred yards this way, half-mile or so down this way, there's crazy action going on. The tactics of this battle are absolutely phenomenal. For those of you who can, for general information for how you may think battles might have run, take a peek at getting a copy of this book, The Maps of Chickamauga. It lays out a little bit of the Tullahoma campaign at the beginning. And then the nice thing is, if you want to see what was going on midday September the 20th with Wilder at 12:30 in the afternoon, here's an explanation on this page here of what was going on with Wilder and the troops that were against him. You're not looking at a 5-mile long battle. You are looking at what they did in this 15-minute or so increment of what's going on. What happened after that?
Chickamauga was the largest battle in the Western Theater, second largest casualties, only to Gettysburg. The major forces were the Union. Was the Army of the Cumberland under the command of Rosecrans. On the Confederate side was the Army of Tennessee under General Bragg. So let me say a few words about Bragg before we get started. Bragg is generally regarded as the worst general of the Civil War, North or South. Right? He was very hard to get along with, argumentative, had a bad temper, very strict disciplinarian. Having said all that, the issues at Chickamauga were largely due to his subordinates not following orders, as opposed to Bragg himself. Okay. Davis realized, so Bragg essentially abandons Chattanooga without a fight. He feels like he's getting outmaneuvered by Rosecrans. He retreats to northern Georgia. Rosecrans doesn't know really where he is, but Davis knows that they really need to recapture Chattanooga. So he augments Bragg's Army of the Tennessee. He sends Longstreet down from the Army of Northern Virginia with about 10,000 troops. He gets Major General Buckner's army, who was fighting in East Tennessee around Knoxville. He gets them to join up with Bragg. He also gets Bushrod Johnson from the Department of Mississippi. He comes over and joins Bragg. So Bragg has about 70,000 troops. It's one of the few battles in the Civil War that starts when the Confederate troops outnumber the Union troops. Okay? Florida was formed along the counties of the western panhandle of Florida, along the Florida-Georgia border. Right? They were their commander was a Colonel Finley. They had 10 companies. They were part of a larger brigade, and these are the other brigade members. They had 7th Infantry of Florida, 5th Virginia Infantry, and I think there was a cavalry unit in here as well. Yeah, 1st Florida Cavalry. So they fought in the Kentucky campaign, Tullahoma campaign, also fought in Eastern Tennessee. But for this battle, for Chickamauga, so the order of battle, they're in they're in Preston's division under Buckner's Corps, which is in the left wing, commanded by Longstreet. So that's kind of the order of battle for the 6th Florida. For Bragg to attack the Corps in details with his entire army. So he tells Polk, gives Polk some specific orders to go and attack. There's corps of, Crittenden is one of the corps of Rosecrans, and Polk doesn't follow the orders. This is going to be a reoccurring theme and play a key role on the 20th of September. So Polk doesn't do what he's told to do, but it does alert Rosecrans that Bragg's army is nearby and his army's in force. So what Rosecrans does at this point, he recalls his corps back to Chattanooga. Without oversimplifying the battle too much, think of the forces on a north-south line. The left is the Union force. Over here is Chattanooga. Over here is the Confederate force. And behind them is Chickamauga Creek. All right, so the Forrest, as you know, is not a guy that minces words, says what he's on his mind. So here's what Forrest says to Bragg. I've stood your meanness as long as I intend to. You have played the part of a damn scoundrel and are a coward. If you were any part of a man, I would slap your jaws and force you to resent it. You may as well not issue me any more orders, for I will not obey them. And I'll hold you personally responsible for any further indignities you endeavor to inflict upon me. If you ever again try to interfere with me or cross my path, it will be at the peril of your life. So essentially, Forrest is telling Bragg, you give me another order, I'm going to shoot you, kill you. Right? So here's what Bragg says to Davis. My action in the case of Lieutenant General Polk was only after the receipt of an unsatisfactory written explanation of his failure to attack on 20 September. The case is flagrant and but a repetition of the past. Our cause is at stake. Without vigorous action and prompt obedience, it cannot be saved. My personal feelings have been yielded to what I know to be the public good, and I suffer self-reproach for not having acted earlier. So he's saying, I should have fired Polk a long time ago. So Davis is getting all this information, and he basically has a mutiny on his hands, and it's really culminated by a petition from a group of generals. And this is what they say. I think Buckner probably leads this group. Under the command of General Bragg, as it now exists, they can render you no assurance of the success which your excellency may reasonably. Davis says, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get everybody, all the generals together, just like we are here. And I'm going to stand up with you by my side, and I'm going to say, you are my guy. I have full confidence in you. And that will bring all the generals into line. Hopefully. That's what Davis thinks. Here's what really happens. When Davis stands up next to Bragg, all the generals get up one by one and make a case in front of Bragg why he should be fired and relieved of command. I fear we both erred in the conclusion for me to retain command after the clamor raised against me. So he said, that council of generals, you should have let me quit as I wanted to. It was a mistake to keep me in command. So now, and I'll end with this. Davis has to replace Bragg at this point. He doesn't know who he's going to replace him with. He gets a letter from Lee. I just found this letter the other day. Lee actually makes a suggestion on who he should place Bragg. Anybody have any guesses on who Lee suggested to replace Bragg with?
Johnson?
Nope. It surprised me when I read it. Here's what Lee writes to Davis. I know the difficulties that surround the subject of General Bragg, but if General Beauregard is considered suitable for the position, I think he can be replaced at Charleston by General Gilmer. So Lee is recommending that Beauregard takes Bragg.
Chuck and Charlie illustrates to me how fascinating different levels of study can be in these battles. Here you had a 3-day battle, but you heard totally different perspectives from Chuck about his soldiers' war and a lot of the movements that are going on your side. And then you come in with the whole perspective of the general side. Well, that's fascinating to me. I really enjoyed both of those commentaries. And And I love the thing about Bragg, about being his quartermaster. That's unbelievable. I never knew that. But anyway, thank you both of you guys for doing that. Our next, thank you. Yes, very good. The next segment, we're going to have military protocol and etiquette. As reenactors, we got a couple of fresh fish here. When you put on that uniform, you become a Civil War soldier. You become, whether you're a private, whether you're whatever, an NCO, whatever you are, that's what you come and respect. We're respecting history is what we're doing. I've asked Randy and Jeannie to come forward and give you some tips on how you can do that, how you can respect this history. So if you all come forward, thank you. Randy and Jeannie, thank you.
All right, thank you. Respecting the hobby. Again, when you put the uniform on, whether you're a private, a sergeant, or a company commander, doesn't matter. Whatever you're putting on, that's who you're portraying. And that goes for the respect a private gives to a sergeant, gives to a company commander, and going back the other way. But you're supposed to immerse yourself into what you are. Learn who you are and act that way. Because you're part of an army, you're part of a company. So when you put the uniform on, that's who you are. If you're portraying an actual person, you read as much as you can on that person, and you be that person when you come to an event. That's what we're looking for. And the more you can do that, when the spectators come around and talk to you, you can explain to them what's going on and why you do what you do. Hopefully, when they hear that enthusiasm, we can get more reenactors.
During the early 1860s, the United States didn't have a military like in modern times as we know of it. We only had the Citadel and we had West One. They had to come up with instant armies. So immediately, overnight, a guy walked out of his mercantile and put on whatever he had from home and grabbed whatever was over the mantle and went to war. Now all those positions were left vacant. So we did have females that unofficially stepped in to become postmistress. So when we set up our towns, I know a lot of the times you guys kind of laugh, oh my God, you break the kitchen sink. So when y'all leave with your stuff in your arms on Sunday afternoon to get home for a football game, I promise you that your town is still taking down the kitchen sink. We have to do that because we set up a house. We don't set up a tent. And my job is to try to sit on the end of our town. And I have to tell all the spectators that you need to pretend that you're looking at a house. Women didn't camp. We didn't live in canvas tents. There are very few incidences that we don't even get into because we don't live in Vicksburg. But we didn't camp. We're not camp followers. Don't call me a camp follower. Do you know what a camp follower is? Don't even tell me out loud. Just raise your hands. Do you know what a camp follower is? Please tell your new fish, do not ever call a female here in Florida. They're camping our town and walking through and getting apples thrown at you or whatever, potatoes thrown at you. A lot of you don't know what we really have in our town. I'm opening the gates to you. I really want the military to come through during spectator hours and please come and see what these girls have done. The majority of us are females. We do have 2 or 3 gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Polly, for showing up in his debutante outfit. That's not the word. Dapper outfit. Dapper down. But please come and visit us. This furniture is antique and it's meant for smaller bottoms. And if you come in and you break one of our 160-year-old chairs, I'm going to be a little bit upset because you were roughhousing. So if you're invited to sit, that's because we specifically brought that item in for y'all to sit in and have dinner. But don't pick up the crate or the 10-pound bag of rice and just like, hey, we're off to the war. Pretend like it's 10 pounds. I don't need to carry another 100 pounds in my 3,000-pound trailer just so you guys don't have to act. If I have to pretend I'm living in a wooden house, y'all can act that you're picking up a 10-pound bag of rice. In that position, we have to, and we always do our research and always get with the commanders before and your host, And I asked them, what's the war we're doing this weekend? What are we doing? What's the year? Time and place is everything. So if it's an 1861 event, well, we're gonna have nicer outfits, nicer clothing. We're gonna have a lot of foods, depending on where we're located. If it's an 1863 like in Chickamauga, we're not gonna have all the nicer things. It's been a few years, especially in the South, that we've been able to get new fabrics or dyes that we can make our clothes with, etc. You come in raiding the town and you're all goofy about it. Hey, you got any potatoes today you will throw at me? Okay, well, they see that. And not only that, to be honest with you, it offends me. And all those other women that have toted 3,000 pounds of crap for y'all to come in and act like goofballs. And it's not all of you. Oh my gosh, we have great interaction with the military. But some of the newer guys who hasn't done and played before with us, they don't know. So just make sure you guys, all the commanders, go back and tell your guys when we're going through the town, we're real. We try real hard to do everything we can to be as close as we can to Officer to her. Only first person, first names is when you're in an intimate, closed-in sitting in your own home. And another thing, when I'm walking past Mr. Findlay here, he is not allowed to reach his hand out and say hi to me until I do it first. Now he can take his hat off. I would appreciate that. Good day. As such, it's just etiquette of the day. When you go to the dances, please wear gloves. I don't care if they're cotton. I don't care if they're. I don't care what they look like. But please wear gloves, because the majority of us have very expensive silk fabrics that we make our dresses out of, and it's the purpose of keeping the dresses from being soiled. If the tent is tied shut, or if there's a rope around her outside fly, do not enter. Because those are ladies that do not want you risking breaking or whatever she has. If the outside is open, there's no rope roping off her fly.
I would like to back some of the what we can do in the town is so much fun. And it's a whole different element than the military part of it, and we've done a lot of it. Alan, the last time I think it was here when you guys we had everybody stacked arms in the middle of the street, and you were supposed to come surprise us.
Yep.
Well, you did.
Good.
And I wanted to see, as a commander, I wanted to see how quickly the captains could get out of the stacked arm position and be ready for battle. And I did not know Alan was going to come within 10 feet of everybody. It was awesome. It was a great experience. So that was a great movement on your part. But thank you very much. It was very, very good. Okay, well, there's a young man here who joined the second floor about 2 years ago, Jake?
Yeah.
He came in with fire in his heart. He wanted authenticity. He wanted to do everything right. I'd probably get a text every week, hey, what hat should I wear? What should I? And this man has developed into one of the best impressions I have ever seen. And he knows all about it. And Jake, I asked you to come in and share it with us.
So,
Jake Dumpy.
So, everybody, there's a few new people here. So, I'm going to talk about where some of y'all should get things. I get a lot of my stuff, right? The only thing that is brand new is jacket. I get a lot of used stuff, right? Go on Facebook. Join marketplaces on Facebook. It's like an online blanket sale, right? You find a lot of good deals. Go to blanket sales in person, at events. Find stuff, okay? So you don't always need the new stuff. A lot of older, like used stuff, like this hat's 20 years old. I'm 16, it's older than I am. This is old too, and it looks like you were in the war, right? So I'm gonna go into like looking authentic too, which she said was great. Spectators notice. When you wear like really obvious tennis shoes, spectators notice. At Gettysburg this year, we had somebody come in from Daniel Lady Farm and be like, man, they looked really goofy. Y'all look good. People, spectators notice. And I hate to be that guy, but people are dicks, right? So they'll make fun of people. I don't want y'all to get made fun of. All of y'all are great people, right? So try to do things. Don't go get your stuff at Walmart. Try to find stuff at events. If you have to, honestly, these are the most comfortable brogans I've ever owned from South Union Mills. It might just be because I'm young. I can march miles in these and still sleep like really well at night. So if you have to, honestly, go to Walmart. I know I just said not to, but go there, get some soles for your shoes, right? Put them in, hell of a difference. I'm telling y'all. So on the other hand, knapsacks are a big thing. You see a lot of them in battles. This is an Isaac Campbell English import. So as we were going on about Chickamauga, 2 months after Gettysburg, the Army almost looks like the Union. You see a lot of these jackets. You see Confederate sky blue trousers come into play. It's all imported from England by the Confederacy. The one I usually with this outfit is an English import. Cap box. This is English import, not English import. Actually, no. But also I'm gonna go on about shoes. So these are civilian low-cut shoes. I see a lot more U.S. Army brogans in reenacting when the Confederate Army and the Union Army had a lot of civilian shoes because they're comfortable. The Union Army shoes that were issued aren't. I wouldn't wear them. These are comfortable. You Union guys are issued stuff along with the Confederates. Get a Tard, one of these. These are issued to you. Especially if you're Union, don't get the white canvas ones. Tar it, because they issued these along with everything else that was issued. Your gun blanket, your knapsack, and if you lost it, it would come out of your pay. So you'd want to have it, right? Any questions?
What makes
Oh,
it
dude, I could go. I forgot about hats.
Yeah, tell us about hats.
This is an English import hat. It's an import. It's a slouch hat. So different depots are going to issue different stuff in the war. Houston Depot, beginning of the war, is going to issue kepis. Halfway through, they realize, well, we're in Texas. Kepis kind of suck. They're going to get a ton of English import hats and bring them to the Houston Depot, and they're going to start issuing them out. I should have brought it because I have one. I didn't because it was like 4:30 in the morning when I left. So, but also kepis. I'm in Florida, so I wouldn't wear one. I don't know if any of y'all travel from out of state. I have a kepi because they're issued sometimes. And so a lot of people don't understand it. The Confederate Army is not, my army was supplied for what they could find. The Confederate Army had resources to use. You ruined your uniform, it was falling off you get a new one. Because they're importing stuff from England, but they're also getting stuff that they had from home. So this is a Type 2 Richmond. So the Richmond Type 3 hasn't even came out yet. The time this is made, it's not late 64. So, I mean, you would still get stuff from your quartermaster. You wouldn't scrounge. I mean, you would, because Chancellorsville, 8th Florida, sweeps the Union, takes over their position, right? They get a ton of Union-issued stuff that they take because it's good. It's better than our crap. They take it. So you see a lot of, Andy wore a great knapsack that he painted the New York Regiment on the back. That was cool. It was a great detail. I had an ancestor who fought the 149th New York, because the 8th Florida took over. So it was kind of cool because I saw his knapsack and I was like, wait a minute. That was my ancestor fought in that unit.
Last question, Jacob. Materials of construction on a hat. What makes a Farby hat versus the material of construction back in
Don't wear a cowboy hat.
What makes it a cowboy hat?
You know if you see one, like, if it's like, I don't know how to shape a cowboy hat because I'm not a cowboy dude. I live in the city. I'm not gonna lie. There could be that guy, but
isn't the wool of a different type of the modern?
I'm not gonna. I'll go into detail real quick. If you got those cappies with like the brims are like this big, get you a real one. I'll sell y'all one of my cappies because I don't like cappies. If you want, hit me up. But
And they're not cowboy hats, or they're not baseball caps.
No, they're not.
Your brim on your kepi should be straight.
It should
Shouldn't
be.
be formed.
Pants. Please, I've seen people do that. Don't do that. You're not. This isn't the 40s. You're not going off to fight the Japanese at Iwo Jima.
I don't even wash them.
Okay, don't starch them.
Talk about shoddy goods.
Don't wash them.
Don't wash them either.
No, don't. I wouldn't wash my. I don't wash my stuff. I let it naturally.
Good man.
I was only gonna go over uniform, but I can go over haversack stuff
I got a
too.
question about Confederate uniforms.
Yes.
So is there an actual national arsenal for the Confederacy, or were state units only supplied by their state?
So it really depends on which theater of war you're in. Like 2nd Florida, the one I was in, they were supplied by the Richmond Depot because they were up in Virginia fighting with the Richmond Depot. If you were, let's say, Chattanooga, you'd be issued the Columbus Depot. So it's a more of a regional thing.
Okay, so if Texas troops needed new coats,
Yeah,
Virginia would give them new coats?
No, if Texas troops, yeah, well, if they were in Virginia, they'd get new
Yeah.
coats. But if they were in like Texas, they'd get Houston Depot stuff. But it's kind of weird because at the beginning of the war, the supplies were just kind of all over the place. Hold on, let me get some water.
The best troops that were clothed were the ones from North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Governor Vance supplied great uniforms. So much so that and during World War I, when we had German prisoners over here, they were dressed in Confederate uniforms in prison. That's how much clothes were left over. Vance was great. The Confederate forces from North Carolina were probably the well-dressed in the Army of Northern Virginia.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Because, yeah, they had the Richmond Depot supplying them and their own state was supplying them. That's the problem about Florida troops are, they don't, I mean, you get stuff from home, but a lot of it's going to be like ransacked because it's a Confederacy. So it's going to be taken through the people that post. And sometimes, because you're marching, you might not even get it. So Florida troops specifically are going to depend heavily on the Richmond Depot. But that's really all I got.
Jack, that's awesome.
Pretty good, really good.
Appreciate it.
Galvanize with us, you need to have, you know, picture perfect, looks like the guy on the monument Union uniforms. We had just as much shoddy stuff as you did during the war. It was a business. Everyone was looking to make a little bit of money off Uncle Sam.
Thank you, Chris.
What's the book called again?
The Business of Civil War.
Check it out, thank you.
All right, we enter the next phase now of drilling, of learning manual of arms and drilling. And so far the weather's been okay for us. I think we're probably good for about 3 or 4 miles. What do you think?
At least.
Yeah?
Jake,
Okay,
you
I'm
wanna
going to
raise?
have Alan Turnbull, if you form up the men in the shade over there, and let's get started. Okay? Thank you.
We'll get this done and over with, all right? All right. The important thing about drill is that there should only be one voice heard. All right? If you have a question, get with me later. But please don't talk during drill. Unless I do something really stupid, then you can raise your hand and tell me. All right? So, how many new people we have in line that have never done drill? All right. The easiest thing to do is listen. Face. One's just pivot. It's a habit. Okay? It is a habit. Hard to break, but break it. You see how your intervals right now? To confuse left, face. Remember what number you are. Nope. You are going up to the left of the guy in front of you. Remember, all the action takes place back there. The front. You got drink. Colonel.
again, I got, like I told you, I got some stuff I'm just looking to get rid of. Plenty of bargains.
Well, if I ask you to charge a cannon, they're all doing this, are you going to do it? No. Are they doing this with the no. If they're all leaning against the wheel, are you going to do it? No.
Yeah.
What's the one with the?
If all the ramrods are leaning against the wheel, are you guys doing it?
Well, like on the howitzers, sometimes you'll see the ramrods just laying at a 45-degree angle. No. If they're up in the air and the man's actually holding them, that gun's hot. If that gun is sitting by itself, that's the one last thing, I'm sorry. Let me take a couple more seconds. If that gun is sitting there idle by itself and nobody's around it, it is not loaded.
Very good. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Attention battalion. Unfixed bayonet.
Again with the left hand. All right. Turn it inward. Nobody should be crossing that bayonet in front of them.
You got no, it's stuck. It's stuck. What we're going to do is march by the flank in a column of four. Okay? When I call right face, you guys are counted off, correct? You know what you're doing? Let's do it one more time. In each rank, count 2.
1, 2,
1,
2, 1, 2,
1, 2,
1,
2.
Very good. Battalion, shoulder, arm. And maintain your intervals. When I tell you right face, maintain your intervals. Ready? Battalion, right face. You stepped up a little, and there's no reason to step up. Remember, you don't step up. Okay, that gives you plenty of time to maneuver as we'll be doing out in the field.
I didn't hear anything. Great.
Okay. Gentlemen, we're marching by the right flank right now. Battalion, forward. March.
Remember that interval I told you?
Right shoulder, shoot. Arm.
Don't gather up on you. Keep your distance. I'd rather have you wider than here.
Arm. Arm.
That interval.
5 mile left. March.
You're turning left. Do not cut it off. Come up to me and then turn. All right, we have a habit of cutting this angle off. So 90-degree turn, left or right.
Halt. Battalion, I'm going to say by the halt, by the left flank, march. What's going to happen is we're going to be forming a battle line. You're going to go back to your column of 2s as a battle. I'm going to say from the halt. Okay? Battalion, from the halt, by the right flank, forward, march.
One, please don't. You guys in the front line, you're not a race. Slow your pace.
Battalion, by company, in the line. If we were the first company, we wouldn't have to worry about this. If we were the second company, you'd be behind the first company and you'd be forming a column of companies. Okay, right now you're first company. First company, by company, in the line. March.
Right shoulder shift. Get there, get there, get there. You guys are going to Very good. You gotta, when you're doing that change, you gotta get up here quickly. Second sergeant, you gotta be up here almost. We're on. Right. Yeah. So that was good. That was good.
All right, I'm going to turn the command over. I would like to have, we have 2 people who would like to volunteer to run the unit. Alan wanted to, Tom Dye wanted to, and Jake wanted to.
Attention company, reform on the first sergeant. March.
Good job, man. Good job.
That's right, I stepped down.
One, two.
Meow. Shoulder, arms, forward, march.
They're hitting your right flank now.
Front rank, right turn into line, march.
Keep it going, keep it going.
Front rank, halt. Front rank, firing 5 miles from the right. 2 seconds interval, commence fire. First sergeant, you have 2 columns.
Chris, you got them all. Now they're coming on this side in full force.
Rear rank, right turn.
Over here. Here's the enemy.
Forward, march.
At the
Here's
close.
the enemy.
Fire by foul, it's in the
Come in line on the right.
Because y'all came out here and sweat and wanted to learn this stuff. I want to thank the instructors who did a phenomenal job. Junie's not here, and I don't think Randy's here, but I want to thank them. Gentlemen, this is so cool that we had Gray and Blue fight together. Yeah. And in the war, you may have started with one captain, but you may have gone through 2 or 3 captains in a given battle, and you know that. So you need to be able to take commands from different people. That's why I had Alan do it, Chris, and I had Tom do it, and Jake, you did a great job stepping forward.
Appreciate it.
So I want to thank you all for coming. I'll be making a film of this thing, and to all of you, 3 cheers. Hit it! Hooray! Hit it!